I object to you getting records. You've been intrusive into people's personal lives. You're confused. You think I'm on trial. These people are on trial for trying to steal an election in 2020. I'm not on trial, no matter how hard you try to put me on trial.
All right, that last part is what I want to ask you about. Is that a smart move to be that angry on the stand like that?
I think she tried to suppress it as much as she could. It's never a good idea to be angry on the stand, even more so in front of a jury, but here it's in front of a judge, and this judge knows that she's angry. And I think that's part of the reason why she got on the stand. She couldn't take it anymore. She couldn't just sit by and listen to what was being said about her. She wanted to defend herself. And again, because it's not in front of a jury, her anger is not going to have as large an effect as it would if jurors were considering something. So never a good idea to be an angry witness, but in this instance, it's not going to hurt her as much as it could have hurt her.
Yeah, it all comes down to when this relationship started, because Trump and his co-defendants are alleging that she launched this prosecution as a way to enrich herself indirectly by hiring her boyfriend, Nathan Wade. Both she and Wade testified under oath today. They didn't start dating until after he was hired to be part of this prosecution team. There was one witness, a former friend and former employee of Fani Willis, who took the stand and said, oh, no, it started in 2019. Her credibility was then later questioned a little bit because it turns out she was fired from the DA's office.
There you have motive, and that's what judges consider. What was the witness's motive to testify? Is there something that took place that would have made that person not necessarily be completely accurate about what took place? Look, the two people who were involved, they said it happened after he was hired. The person that they're using to contradict that and to support their argument is going to say the opposite. So now the judge has to decide who's more credible, the two people who were involved in this or the person who's being put forward by the defense to support their position. And Elizabeth, remember, this is an instance of where attorneys use facts to support their position, and they see things that take place, and then they try to couch their arguments around that. I think we're seeing a lot of that happening here, trying to shoehorn in the facts on the part of the defense to support their theory, because that's the only way it's going to work. Was he hired before the indictment was presented? Because if that's the case, then that's going to present a big problem here for the DA.
And we're talking about these allegations that she was using this prosecution to enrich herself. We're talking about a total of $10,000 in trips with Nathan Wade?
You know, they said go big or go home. I mean, if you're a public official and you're going to do what they've alleged you're going to do, one would think that you would do it for a lot more than this. We saw this happen. It's completely not connected to this, but in the PPP fraud cases, people didn't go in and get a couple $100. People went in and got hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars. They were going big when they were doing this. Again, I think the fact that they found that there was this much money that could have been exchanged, they're using that to shoehorn that into their theory of why she should be dismissed. I agree with you. It's not that large an amount of money. That doesn't mean if it's true, she should have been allowed to do that, but it's not that big and not that large an amount of money for somebody to virtually, she'd be throwing her career away at this point.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you think the judge is going to rule on this? Is her credibility irrevocably damaged when it comes to prosecuting this case?
If the judge believes her, it's not. If the judge disbelieves her and she's disqualified, she's not going to be prosecuting this case anymore. I think that a lot of this has to do with the judge cutting through the weeds. The attorneys were on both sides, the witness and the attorneys asking questions, yelling at each other, arguing with each other, yelling back. We saw the judge had to intercede a couple of times. He had to take a break at one point for everybody to calm down. I think that there's far too much emotion that's built into this, and the judge is going to have to sort through all of that and come up with a decision based just on the facts.
You know, he's been actually remarkably calm and even-handed, I thought. You know, at times scolding Fani Willis to just answer the question, at times scolding the lawyers. You know, she's already answered that question. I mean, they're going on and on and on and into the minutia of Cash App and, you know, records of cash. And when you went out to dinner, who paid and did you pay him back? And is there any record you paid him back? And we're talking, she's testifying that two people on a date aren't keeping a ledger as to who paid. And, you know, it was just me paying him back, or we took turns treating or something like that.
Look, a lot of this is for the public and for everybody who's watching this. And this is a problem when cameras are in the courtroom. I think it would have been a little bit less theatrical and dramatic if there weren't cameras there, but we need to all see what's going on. And in this day and age, we want to see what's going on. And I think that the judge is doing a good job of keeping both sides in line.
Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.